guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Alaki, and if you're new here, thank you for stopping by. Today I'm just going to react to motivational speeches, motivational videos that really changed my life, really changed the way I perceive, the way I react, or the way I think to certain things. So let's begin. Let's just go straight because the speeches are long enough, so let's just go straight to the video. Number one, the title is Giving Up is the Birthplace of Regrets, and the speaker is Shona Barber. So briefly, Shona Barber is a former Miss USA who actually won the title in 2016, but the journey of winning that title wasn't easy because she had to fail many times. So let's just watch the video together.
Asked me, "Were you born in this country?" And I was immediately offended. And I said, "Yeah, I was born in this country." And then she says, "Do you have any kids?" I said, "No, I don't have any kids." Then asked me if I was married. And then I said, "No, ma'am, I am not married." She says, "How old are you?" I said, 19. "May I help you find something?" She then says, "You are the most beautiful girl I have seen." And I said, "Oh, thank you." And then she says, "I think you could be the next Miss USA." I'm in the Army, okay? We don't do pageants in the Army. She then asked me to meet her at Starbucks the very next day before my next shift at Target. And apparently I was a pretty open-minded 19-year-old because I actually agreed to meet her the very next day. The next day she brought this foot-tall stack of pageant books and proceeds to convince me to enter into a state pageant. So 3 months later, I compete in my first pageant and I lose. I go back the second year, compete in the state pageant. I lose. Go back the third year, compete in the state pageant and lose. Go back the fourth year, compete in the same pageant and lose. I go back the fifth year, y'all. Compete in the state pageant and lose. But guess what? I go back the sixth year. Guess what happens? I lose. I called her on the phone and said, "You told me I could be the next Miss USA." And she says, "Deshauna, keep working, don't quit, keep going back." And in June of 2015, she passes away from leukemia. 6 months later, in December 2015, I win Miss District of Columbia, USA. And 6 months after that, in June of 2016, I become the first soldier to win Miss USA. At times, our purpose drops in our laps as if the heavens threw it by accident. I ask only one thing of you all today after you leave. Do not fear failure, but please be terrified of regret. Giving up is the birth of regret. After you walk out this door, you will receive 100 doors shut, slam in your face. You will have 100 moments that will be filled with someone telling you no. Or telling you, "Thank you for your application, but we regret to inform you that we've chosen a different candidate for this job." You will sit in 100 different interviews and you will not get the job. The reality of life is that we will all hear more no's than we hear yeses. And we will fail a lot, and I mean a whole lot. But what I ask of you today is to not take no for an answer. Don't be afraid of no's. Be afraid of the possibility of a yes that you have prematurely destroyed because you decided to quit before the clock strikes 12. I love a good no. Please tell me no. Telling me no is like adding fuel to a fire that is now set ablaze because of your single no. So today I challenge you to fight, to work, to not stop here, to believe so heavily in your aspirations that you too will not fear the word no, but instead you will choose to welcome it.
So this video impacted my life in a way that I remember I wanted to give up pursuing my university studies in English system because I actually studied my rural secondary school in French system. So when I wanted to pursue my university studies, I actually wanted to be in English system. So I remember English was hard for me in the beginning, so I wanted to give up because I was like, oh, I'm not going to succeed. English is so hard, and this is university, it's not secondary school anymore, so I just give up, and then next year I'll begin to another French university. So listening to this speech really changed my life. Really say, why you want to give up just the first year try? What if you complete the whole first year? And I was like, if she failed many times, I can just be patient. I can persevere, and I can make many effort to study English and to be good at it. So let's see how my first year will be. So this video really motivated me, and I remember listening to this video every time I could go to take bath. I will be listening to this video every time I will go taking the bus to go on school or to go on uni. I'll be just listening to this video because it was really encouraging me to never give up in life, to not just give up in general, because studying in English, which was something that I really wanted personally, and I was like, why giving up now? In my middle year, so why giving up now? I must continue fighting, and this video really was my way of motivating me each and every day. So just when I remember watching this, I was like, oh my God, people can really be patient out there. There are people who are so resilient, who persevere a lot, so why I can't be that? So this video really helped me, and I'm so grateful. Second, the speaker is Muniba Mazari. So Muniba Mazari is a Pakistan woman, also known as a 9-1 lady. She's a motivational speaker as well as a YouTuber. She has a YouTube channel. So in this video, she just talked about how she got married at 18 years old because she couldn't say no to her parents. How she had a dream of becoming a painter because she really loves painting, but how also she found herself getting a car accident, and that could make her dreams become impossible. So just let's watch.
I was 18 years old when I got married. I belonged to a very conservative family, a Baloch family, where good daughters never say no to their parents. My father wanted me to get married, and all I said was, if that makes you happy, I'll say yes. And of course, it was never a happy marriage. Just about after 2 years of getting married, about 9 years ago, I met a car accident. Somehow my husband fell asleep and the car fell in the ditch. He managed to jump out, saved himself. I'm happy for him. But I stayed inside the car and I sustained a lot of injuries. The list is a bit long. Radius ulna of my right arm were fractured. The wrist was fractured. Shoulder bone and collarbone were fractured. My whole rib cage got fractured. But that injury that changed me and my life completely was the spine injury. Many people came to rescue. They gave me CPR. They dragged me out of the car. And while they were dragging me out, I got the complete transection of my spinal cord. Those 2.5 months in the hospital were dreadful. I was at the verge of despair. One day, doctor came to me and he said, well, I heard that you wanted to be an artist, but you ended up being a housewife. I have a bad news for you. You won't be able to paint again. Next day, doctor came to me and said, your spine injury is so bad. You won't be able to walk again. I took a deep breath and I said, it's all right. Next day, doctor came to me and said, because of your spine injury and the fixation that you have in your back, you won't be able to give birth to a child again. That day, I was devastated. I started to question my existence. Why am I even alive? So what kept me going was, one day I asked my brothers, I know I have a deformed hand, but I'm tired of looking at these white walls in the hospital and wearing these white scrubs. Bring me some colors, bring me some small canvas. I want to paint. So the very first painting I made was on my deathbed, where I painted for the very first time. What an amazing therapy. Take this moment and I will make it perfect for myself, that I'm going to fight my fears. So I wrote down one by one all those fears, and I decided that I'm going to overcome these fears one at a time. You know what was my biggest fear? Divorce. But the day I decided that this is nothing but my fear, I liberated myself by setting him free. And I made myself emotionally so strong that the day I got the news that he's getting married, I sent him a text that I'm so happy for you and I wish you all the best. And he knows that I pray from a very small city in Pakistan. I got a call and they said, "Are you Muniba Mazari? There is a baby boy and would you like to adopt?" I could literally feel the labor pain. I said, yes, I am going to adopt him. I am coming to take him home. And that day, Niall was 2 days old, and today he's 6. You know, when you end up being on the wheelchair, what's the most painful thing? People think that they will not be accepted by the people because we, in the world of perfect people, are imperfects. So I decided to appear more in public. I started to paint. I have done a lot of modeling campaigns. I decided that I'm going to join the national TV of Pakistan as an anchor person. I became the National Goodwill Ambassador for UN Women Pakistan, and now I speak for the rights of women, children. I was featured in BBC 100 Women for 2015. I'm one of the Forbes 30 under 30 for 2016. So when you accept yourself the way you are, the world recognizes you. It all starts from within. We have this amazing fantasy about life. This is how things should work. This is my plan. It should go as per my plan. If that doesn't happen, we give up. I never wanted to be on the wheelchair. Never thought of being on the wheelchair. This life is a test and a trial, and tests are never supposed to be easy. So when you're expecting ease from life, and life gives you lemons, then you make the lemonade, and then do not blame life for that. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to cry. Everything is okay, but giving up should not be an option. They always say that failure is not an option. Failure should be an option, because when you fail, you get up, and then you fail, and then you get up, and that keeps you going. Embrace each and every breath that you are taking. Celebrate your life. Live it. Don't die before your death. Real happiness lies in gratitude. So be grateful, be alive, and live every moment.
So this speech really changed my life, really taught me to accept myself the way I am, to accept myself the way I am, to follow my dreams, and to be perfect in my imperfections. So this speech was so needed. The first time I had to watch, I had to cry. So it was so inspiring. And it really taught me that limitations are just an illusion in our minds, and nothing in the world can stop you from achieving your goals. Third, the speaker is Steve Jobs, full name Stephen Paul Jobs. He was the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Apple, chairman and shareholder of Pixar Animation Studio, and many more. If you go on Wikipedia, the list goes on. So, he gave a speech at the Stanford University class of 2005. So, let's just watch together.
I'm honored to be with you today for your commencement from one of the finest universities in the world. Truth be told, I never graduated from college, and this is the closest I've ever gotten to a college graduation. Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. When I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog, which was one of the Bibles of my generation. It was created by a fellow named Stuart Brand, not far from here in Menlo Park, and he brought it to life with his poetic touch. This was in the late 60s, before personal computers and desktop publishing, so it was all made with typewriters, scissors, and Polaroid cameras. It was sort of like Google in paperback form 35 years before Google came along. It was idealistic, overflowing with neat tools and great notions. Stuart and his team put out several issues of the whole catalog, and then, when it had run its course, they put out a final issue. It was the mid-1970s, and I was your age. On the back cover of their final issue was a photograph of an early morning country road, the kind you might find yourself hitchhiking on if you were so adventurous. Beneath it were the words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." It was their farewell message as they signed off. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And I have always wished that for myself. And now, as you graduate to begin anew, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Thank you all very much.
So this speech inspired me so much in my entrepreneurial journey. Always do what you love, to always be angry and to be foolish about what you want to pursue. So this was reminding that every time that I feel like giving up, every time that I feel like I'm not doing something that is worthy, and I remind myself that, do I really love what I do? If the response is yes, then I'm doing the right thing. So if you love what you do, this already, everything will follow. Just do what you love, follow your passion, and follow your intuition. So this is about businesses. He was actually a businessman. So if you are into entrepreneurship, businesses, so this is actually a great way to just do what you love, to follow your passion, because when you do what you love, everything will follow. Fourth, the speaker is Sarah Jakes Robert. Sarah Jakes Robert is a pastor, a businesswoman, and an author. So let us listen to this short part of a sermon.
Curse, and what I hear her saying is, how do I prepare my defense against the world that I'm going back in? If we're honest, some of us are thinking to ourselves already, how do I prepare my defense? I'm going back into a situation defensive because I don't want anything to be stolen from me. And that's how you know that you aren't really sure that it's stuck. Because if you were really sure what you experienced stuck, then you would know that no one could take it from you. When we hear in scripture things like, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it and the world can't take it away, it's because the joy that I have doesn't have anything to do with the world around me, so they can't even access it. I want to talk to somebody who wants to do more than just have a conference where I go back and have to protect it, but quite literally I experience transformation. If you experience transformation, nobody can take what you, I feel like that is for somebody. I don't want you to go back assuming a posture of defense when God has called you to move into a position of offense. You got some points to make, baby. You've got some goals to make, baby. And you can't do that if you feel like you're defending. I hear God saying that it is okay for you to be on the front line, that I will be your shield, that I will be your deflector. When we say no weapon formed against you will prosper, it also says, and any tongue that rises up against you, I will condemn. I don't have to be defensive when I know that my God is defending me. I don't have to look out for myself when I know that God has my. What happened in this room was real. No one can take it from me. And so when I step into my identity, I'm not going to go into it like a little girl who can be robbed or a little girl who can have something taken away from her. I'm going into it as a grown woman who had an encounter that will never change me again. And yes, I may be the only one who had it, but this only one has layers and dimensions down on the inside of me. This only one got a tap of the Holy Ghost, and I'm staying close to the river.
There are many sermons that really inspire me, but first there is why isolation leads to transformation. These sermons really inspired me that when I was isolating myself, it was actually a big way for me to discover who I am and then to come back to see how big, how transformed I will be. So when you isolate yourself, it is on purpose. When you isolate yourself, it's actually find a way to think about what you can do, who you are in general. And when you come out, you can see that there is a big transformation of who you are, a big version of who you are that come out from isolation. So it is a place of discovering who you are. It's a place that to know you are and to say, I can do it. And then you come out, you see there is a big transformation because actually you are actually to take time to think about who you are, to think about what you can do. So this was good. But there is also get out of a routine from powerless to powerful. And I remember these things were like, you have to get out of your routine. And I was like, hell, I've always wanted to have my YouTube channel. So that's one. It was in January that I said, yes, I must get out of my routine. I must start what I've always wanted to do. So it was in January that I actually opened up my first YouTube channel and no one knew about it because I discovered that even though I was like, I'm getting out of my routine, I discovered that I was still in my routine, but it was a step further. So I realized that small steps, small step. It was until in July that I actually decided to open up another YouTube channel or to make it public. That actually it is public. Everyone can see it, everyone can like, everyone can comment, and everyone can watch. There is another sermon is come out of hiding. As I said, when I realized that I was still in my routine, I was still not getting out in my routine, I say I must come out of hiding. Why? I'm taking a small step further and I realize that I'm still in my routine, so I'm still hiding myself, so I have to come out of hiding. And that's when I actually started to another YouTube channel, which is this one you're watching, to make it public and to just make myself known. Oh, you know, I have a YouTube channel, you can like, you can subscribe. So because these sermons really inspired me. So Sarah Jakes Robert is really inspiring, anointed woman. And I really love, she's like a big sister, a mentor, a leader, a motivator. So she's more than that. I really love her. She's really inspiring and I love listening to her sermon. She's really anointed woman of God. So blessed too she is, and bless God. A living vessel for this generation. So inspiring. Fifth, the speaker is Lisa Nichols. So Lisa Nichols is an American motivational speaker. So let's just listen to this speech.
I remember when my ninth grade teacher asked me, Lisa, what do you want to be when you grow up? And see, I have to fight the Harlem Crip 30s every day to get home from school, so I looked at her and said, alive. After English class, I got to fail in English. And my English teacher said in front of the entire class, Lisa, you have to be the weakest writer I've ever met in my entire life. Don't worry, my story ends good. Don't feel sorry for me. I got 7 under my belt. And then the same year, my speech teacher said, after giving me a D-, I knew I had an A in speech. Like, come on. He obviously didn't agree with me. He gave me a D- and said, quote unquote, that you never speak in public, that you get a desk job. So here's the beauty of that story. Other people's perception of you ain't none of your business.
This speech is something that I easily relate to, something that I relate too much. You know why? She was told that she could never be a public speaker because she was bad at writing, and she actually had like D-, I think. So because it's not something easy for me that I can relate directly. I was told, I was actually see people laughing at me because of my communication skills, laughing at me because the way I communicate. And there is even people who came and told me that I could never be a leader because I'm bad at communicating. I could never be a leader because I have a bad communication skills. So I was like, oh, I could never be a leader because of my communication skills problem. I was like, I can be a leader. Today, what she does for living is being a motivational speaker. So she's like, hey, I had D minus, but look at me, I have A. And I was like, oh my God, you have just to follow your dreams, be who you are, accept who you are. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you really enjoy watching this video as much as I enjoy making it, as much as I feel inspired and motivating every time I watch these motivational speeches, motivational videos. Thank you guys. Please consider subscribing, like this video and share it with your friends. It really means a lot to me. See you soon in my next video. Bye bye.